Good evening, everybody. I think it's 5 o'clock, so we'll start the meeting. I declare the meeting of the City Council open. This hybrid meeting is being conducted on a multi-locational basis in accordance with the Local Government and Election Wales Act and the arrangements for multi-location meetings agreed by the Council, which will operate alongside the Council's standing orders to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open, transparent manner. For those attending the meeting in the Council chambers, please note that today's meeting is being filmed for live and subsequent broadcast by way of the Council's internet site. The images and sounds recorded may be used for training purposes within the Council. As you will see from the agenda papers, generally the public sitting areas are not filmed. However, by entering the meeting and using the public sitting areas, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possibility use of those images and sound recorders for webcasting and or training purposes. As well as being broadcast live, a recorded version will be available on the Council website about 24 hours after the meeting. For those attending the meeting remotely, can I request you switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise and to help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council's standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times during this hybrid meeting, in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. For the benefit of everyone watching on live stream, when I invite members to cast their vote remotely on a particular item, will they do so electronically using the voting facility in the chat function? The votes will be automatically counted and recorded on the system, but individual votes that are not recorded on the screen on the chat box poll is not available on the live stream for public viewing. Those members present in the Council chamber will vote in the usual way by a show of hands. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. I move now on to the next item, which are apologies. I have just one apologies, and that is from Councillor John Jones. Any other apologies? No. Are there any declarations of interest at this stage? Online. Councillor Corton.
Hello, it's just to say to declare an interest on item 4. It mentions the Corn Exchange, where I'm a volunteer currently, so I just wanted to say that about it there. Thanks.
Did you get that? Okay, thank you.
Actually, yeah, Presiding Member, yeah, just to declare that I live in the area of Pill as part of the PSPO, which is previously mentioned, and also I am a member of the governing body of the Whitehead School, Pill Primary School. For transparency purposes, I think it's important to note that I also sit on Pill Mill Centre.
Okay, thank you. No one else is there? No. Move on to my announcements. The only announcement I have to make actually is that there will be no police questions this evening. They've been called to a serious incident, so all police are on call there. So there'll be no police questions this evening. I'd like now to move on to item 2, the minutes. The minutes from September the 24th, 2024 are before us. Are there any point of accuracy? Councillor Reeks.
Thank you, Chair. There was some issue over the appointment of governors to Mount Pleasant Primary School raised at the last meeting. Just want to confirm that that's all been resolved now and sorted, so we're happy to second those minutes that were raised then.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move the minutes as a true record. Is there a seconder? Councillor Druitt. Okay. We will now proceed to the vote. Would all councillors please cast their votes now, standing with all those in favour? I think that's... We're not quite seeing the hands at the moment. I'm sorry about this. We're just waiting for those to come through on chat. No. Yeah, I think we can take a vote that's been carried anyway, to be perfectly honest with you. Yeah. Are there any against? I can't see any at the moment. Oh, it's come on now, thank you. It's on now. So it's 100% now for. Okay? Yeah. I approve of the minutes is duly carried. The next item is I move before item 3 now. This is an extra item now of the monitoring officer. Sorry. I think that's right, yes. Yes. Before we move on to item 3, I need to address an urgent item of business which is not on the agenda. That business is the appointment of the monitoring officer. This business is urgently because of the council is required to designate a monitoring officer in accordance with Section 5 of the Local Government and Housing Act 1989.
I do have an interest in this matter, presiding member, so I shall leave the room.
Okay, Right, following the recruitment process was concluded on the 25th of October 2024, the appointments panel of this council has duly appointed Mike Wallbank as the council's head of law and standards. The holder of this position is also usually designated as the council's monitoring officer. However, as a statutory position, the designation of the monitoring officer requires a resolution of full council. I therefore propose that Mike Wallbank be designated as the monitoring officer of this council. Would somebody like to second this proposal? Leader?
Proposed.
Thank you.
Member.
Thank you. Does anybody have any comments before we proceed to vote? Can we now proceed to vote then, please? All those in favour? Any against? I can't see any against on the chat as well. No abstentions. Thank you for the vote. The vote is carried, and I therefore declare that Mike Wallbank is duly appointed as the council's monitoring officer. That was easy. I'd like to ask Mike to come back in, please. I'm sorry to tell you this. Right, item 3, appointments. Councillor Druitt to introduce this item.
Presiding member, Council is asked to receive and approve the nominations for representatives as listed in the report.
Can I have a seconder to that report, please?
Happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any comments on the report? No. Right, we will now proceed to the vote. Would all councillors please cast their vote now, starting with all those in favour? Yeah, 100%. Any against? No abstentions, so that's carried. As I said earlier, there will be no police questions today. Let's move on to item 5 now, the annual corporate wellbeing self-assessment 2023 to 2024.
Presiding member, under the Equalities Act 2010, the Council has a statutory duty to report.
Matt.
Sorry.
Leader.
Thanks, Matt. This is the Council's annual corporate wellbeing and self-assessment for the previous financial year, 23-24. The report provides a self-assessment of progress against the corporate plan and the extent to which it has met its statutory requirements outlined in Local Government Act and Wellbeing Future Generations Act. The report was presented to the Council's Cabinet in October, Overview Scrutiny Management Committee and the Governance and Audit Committee in September. Feedback from both committees has been considered as part of the report presented. The overall conclusion is that the Council has continued to make good progress against the corporate plan objectives, but there are continuing risks and challenges across key frontline services. No shock to say, social services, housing and education. 7 of the 9 recommendations were completed and 2 actions have been carried forward in 24-25 action plan. There are 5 actions for the Council to implement in 24-25. The report will be published on the Council's website in Welsh and English and supported by public version for residents.
Thank you, Leader. Is there a seconder, please? Deputy. Do you wish to speak? No, I'll reserve your right to speak later. Okay. Are there any other comments on the report? Councillor.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The plan talks a lot about wanting to be an inclusive organisation, delivering high-quality services to the people of Newport, and that's on page 25 of the original corporate plan here. And yet, we are still leaving residents behind. There's been a big jump in complaints. If you take Newport's call centre, for instance, missed targets and poor service levels again. Not sure the latest data on the council tax phone line, but the 2023-24 target is in itself abysmal and questionable, with the average wait time target of 25 minutes, which is shocking and outrageously high. The average waiting time on the normal line is over 7 minutes, and that's bad enough. That's on page 63 of the report you've got tonight if you'd like to check these facts. I'll just give you one common complaint, for example, which I've raised for the last 2 years now, I think, and it's the ability to report missed bin collections via the contact centre. Now you have to do this online via a form. And if you have an elderly person and they get told they have to get a family member or a neighbour to report it online for them, then that is not improving service. Of course we should use technology to improve services delivery, but we must not forget our elderly and vulnerable who also pay their taxes. We will support this plan, but clearly there's a lot of work to do.
Thank you, Matthew. Is there any other? Councillor Corden.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'd like to speak about strategic priority 4. I do have the flu, so if I fall into a coughing fit, please forgive me. Okay. And I'm sorry for everyone in the room if I do. The work, priority 4 covers the work for Newport to become a destination that celebrates cultural diversity, heritage and delivers elite sporting events. We have such a rich treasure trove here in Newport, and I'm confident that by working with partners we can continue the work to make Newport the destination it deserves to be for our residents and for visitors. I think sometimes we forget, because we all live in it, that within a 10-mile radius we've got the most complete example of an amphitheatre in Britain, the only legionary barracks on show in Europe, our amazing transporter bridge, soon to be accompanied by its own visitor centre, a medieval ship that's been hailed as the best preserved large 15th century ship in the world. Yes, it needs a home and that will come, but for now the ship centre experience of the summer is brilliant. We have our Victorian market, the second oldest Victorian arcade in Wales, the Chartist heritage, Tredegar House, which is one of the most outstanding houses of the restoration period, our castle, the wetlands. Yes, you can't buy an expensive bird feeder there anymore, but you can still go and visit what is one of the best places in Wales to observe wildlife, and our city's ancient heritage. We've got the cathedral, we've got art by Rodin, Lowry, a city centre stadium, our maritime history, which makes our city the place it is, our parks, street art, our multi-generational grassroots music scene that's as competitive as any other, including Cardiff, but also multi-genre, reflecting our city's diverse population. In fact, our cultural scene has just generated the world's first ever grime musical, which I really look forward to seeing at the Riverfront next year. We've got world-class golf courses, Olympian supportive facilities at the Sports Village. In fact, the gold medal winning world record breaking Olympic cycling team keep coming back to Newport because of what they call the Newport effect. I've no doubt missed something, and I'm sure somebody will call me up on it, but there's just so much to celebrate in this. And that's not all. We've got an exciting programme of city centre events ready for next year, which will draw together everyone from across the city. And I can't wait to start sharing that. It gives us a couple of weeks and there'll be some big and exciting announcement. And let's not forget what's coming down the line is our brilliant new leisure centre with 2 pools, slides and much more. It is easy to forget about all this treasure when we see it and live with it day in, day out. But it's on all of us to shout about it to the world. There's nowhere else like this in Britain or in Europe. And I look forward to the cultural strategy and the destination management plan, which will sit along the placemaking plan, working to make the most of all of this.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments on the report? Councillor Howes.
Thanks. Thank you, Presiding Member. I just wanted to talk from an assets and infrastructure perspective, because I think we're very proud of, some of the aspects of the report that in a challenging financial environment, we've done any number of things, but just to name a few, retrofitting heat pumps onto 5 schools and LEDs and other carbon measures across the council assets. We've provided capital funding that's enabled a significant programme of road resurfacing work that you've seen this year, with more still to come. We've commenced or are about to commence further active travel schemes across the city, building on the active travel bridge that went over the station last year. A lot of work's been put into progressing the Eliminate agenda, both within Children's Services and the Assets team. So it's just a really positive picture across the board in terms of those projects. And I'm also just really pleased to see the feasibility report for the medieval ship is going to be a priority for this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other person to speak? Councillor? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. Yes, the report does offer a lot of things that are good about Newport. But if you just come to Newport and have a look around, we talk about infrastructure. Well, the street lights don't, street lights don't always work. I've had an issue with Altering Avenue. I've reported it about 4 or 5 times. I was told the reason the streetlights won't come on is because the leaves on the trees haven't fallen. What kind of response is that to give to a resident? It's not good enough. The leaves aren't picked up on the pavements, the gutters are full, there's weeds everywhere. So it's not all a good story. We need to take some pride in the little things that need to be done in the city. There's plenty more going on.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other? Councillor Cox first.
That's right. I apologise. Can my 3 minutes start now, please, Presiding Member? I actually moved to Newport, I believe it, 30 years ago this month. And the change I've seen while I've been in Newport, obviously in 30 years, has been massive. I mean, the closure of traditional employers like, Whiteheads and the Orb Steelworks. There's been, without a doubt, a big increase in deprivation. I don't think any of us need telling that there's been a massive change in things like the city centre. I mean, we could list, couldn't we, Wildings, Littlewoods, British Home Stores, Woolworths, etc., have all just gone. They've all disappeared. So there's been massive change in Newport, and it's not all been for the good. But the world has changed, and if you look at the history of Newport, Newport has always changed as well, from a Roman fort to a medieval port to a major industrial city. And clearly, Newport has got to change again. And that's what I really welcome about this report. It sets an absolute blueprint for the sort of city we want to have. And I think it's undeniable that we can really see the changes taking place that are taking us towards the sort of vision that this document outlines. And I must say that I'm not, with Councillor Evans, I'm not belittling the points he's raised. They're significant points and they should concern us all. But it really is very, very sad, I think, at a moment when we're all looking forward to a new vision for the city, that he couldn't find at least one positive comment to make. And we can see it. The evidence is there. The high-tech companies coming to Newport looking to invest millions in the local community. String of new businesses, new restaurants, etc., opening on the high street. The attendance of the recent events we've held have been, a record. They're far above what's happened before. They're really exciting plans we have for our heritage. Again, really inspiring and exciting developments to look forward to. But okay, not everything is perfect, we all know that, but without a doubt there is clearly a new positive attitude. I think there's a new energy. I think when you talk to people they realise it and they sense it, and I would really urge everybody to get behind this report. And I'd also urge everybody in Newport, it's Newport's plan, it's not just the council's plan. I'd urge everybody in Newport to get involved as well, and there are some great opportunities, for example, at the moment, the consultation on the 60 new ideas that came from Newport people, Newport citizens, and there's an opportunity now for local people to actually get involved in taking the city forward, because it is going forward.
Thank you very much.
So, Presiding Member, just a point of clarification. I do support a lot going on in the city, but just wanted to highlight some of the issues which are facing my residents as well.
Thank you. Any other one? Councillor Routley.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Like the majority of people in this chamber, if not all, I do support a progressive Newport. But we must sometimes take the blinkers off. There was a mention of eliminate and how well that is. Eliminate project for Wales is failing. It's failing in England. It's failing in Wales. It's going to cause a crisis in children and adult service accommodation. So the Cabinet Member needs to reflect carefully on the eliminate agenda and don't be taken in by any of the Welsh Government's hopes and wishes type of agenda. It is definitely failing, and every professional in the service will tell her that. As far as other things that need to be done, the citizens of Newport need extra cleansing on their streets, on their roads, in the villages and in the lanes, because we've just come through one of the worst situations of flooding. And what compounds that is we need greater effort, a doubling of effort. We need to find money to redouble our efforts so that we can not only unblock drains, but we can lift the debris off the roads, take the leaves off the roads, and try and keep our drains clear by better maintenance. That's what we need. I know all the good things that are going on, but let's concentrate on the things that we need to fix as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Routley. I apologise, Councillor Rees, but what's happening at the moment, we used to have all the people that wanted to speak coming on the right-hand side here, and it's not coming up this time. So I apologise for that. So, Councillor Rees.
Thank you, Presiding Member. As Councillor Evans has referenced, and Councillor Cox also referenced, there's a lot of positives in this report, but there's work to do in other areas. So I feel it's incumbent on us as elected representatives. We all have a part to play in holding ourselves and the administration to account, but we feel we can do better. And we also have a part to play in promoting the city where we can. And I'll just give you a very quick example of this. I'm currently responding to an article in a magazine I saw this weekend that refers to the upgrades at Tredegar Park Caravan Club site. And the best thing they can say about Newport is it's only 10 miles from Cardiff. Now, I'm going to be pointing out to the editor of this magazine that you don't need to travel to Cardiff for entertainment. You don't need to go there for history, culture, or good food. It is right here in Newport. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Councillor Rich. Councillor Screen.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I just want to touch on what Councillor Cox talked about, the sort of positivity in Newport rather than negativity. In my own ward, we have now a data centre which is being expanded. We have Porsche set up their showroom and engineering works there, British Aerospace. We've got Microsoft building a new data centre. I know there are other plans, Vishay for microchips. You know, it's a renaissance in a sense. And Newport was built on steel, coal, you know, the old heavy industries. Now we're seeing a renaissance into the new high-tech, you know, clean, green industries. And I think that should be a cause for celebration and positivity. Thank you.
Councillor Green. Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I just wanted to come back on Councillor Routley's point with regards to the Eliminate programme, which of course is a Welsh Government policy. But what should be said about the Eliminate programme, even though it is a challenge, and as a council we have risen to that challenge, looking at around 77 beds being brought back in 23-24 for our children, and also, you know, 2 new care homes being opened, children's homes being opened in the next year, as Councillor Howells mentioned. You know, as it is a challenge, it also should be celebrated. We've got some of our children's services, and our team are amazing. Our children should be brought back in-house. It's not about necessarily the profit or profiteering. It is a challenge. We've stood up to it. As you can see in the document, like I said, 77 children being brought back into Newport is a much better outcome. So I'd celebrate the report in front of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. We are having a little problem with the sound coming from the people online, so can you make sure that the microphones are on?
Thank you, Presiding Member.
That's better.
Just to reiterate, really, what Councillor Corton has said. Yes, she raised some good points. A lot of people might not realise we are. I love Newport. There's a lot of people that put Newport down. I love Newport. However, there are little things like the basics that we have to get right. So firstly, I fully support what Councillor Corton said, and I'm glad she did highlight the positivities about our city. For me, I suppose, I don't know, I can't answer for anybody else, but I had a very busy weekend with residents, messages and phone calls, etc., whereby we were kind of caught out by that weather. And for me, it was just people, the theme remained the same through the messages. Kevin is autumn, leaves are falling everywhere. Why aren't we mitigating that, for instance, by when we were kids, we used to see the drain gully guys go around all the time sucking out the pots. On the Severn Bridge where I work, we have a programme whereby we have gully suckers on that bridge every 3 months, I'd say. So any build-up in there is mitigated because these structures are in the air above water. So they're very good at it, and it often makes me think about like Bettis Lane, it's tree-lined, and the heavy leaf fall there causes massive issues, which ends up in the cricket club, ends up in the school grounds. Malpas Road the other day was blocked. We had residents, a friend actually was out there with sticks in the drains, etc. It's just little things like that. I suppose somebody had mentioned it earlier. They're the little things that will make things like this even better. The corporate well-being self-assessment, it'll make it even better. Just getting them basics right, and maybe it'll soften the blow when we get things like Storm Bert. It's not a criticism because it kind of caught us all out, but it's just something to be mindful about, particularly around the autonomous season. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. Councillor Howells.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. If I could just raise a procedural matter first. The title of the report says self-assessment for 24-25, but I think it should be 23-24. Page 31 of the minutes.
You might be right on that. On my report now, I've got 23-24.
Right. The one online says 24-25. Right. Okay. So just in terms of when we come to vote it through. And then I just wanted to sort of echo some of the comments from other councillors, really. I think the report tries to strike a balance between some of the things that we can improve on and some of the things that we've done well. And I commend the officers of the council for those things that we've done really well. I'm picking up on Councillor Evans' point. We had a detailed discussion at scrutiny last night about customer service targets and answering the phone, and we did drill down into that. And those meetings, the scrutiny meetings, are an opportunity for us to hold the executive to account, hold the cabinet members to account. It was great to see all the cabinet members attend that scrutiny meeting. That's the first time I've seen since I've been chairing the committee that they all attended, and I think that should be commended. It's really good to have an open, honest dialogue with them about the things that we can do well, the things we're already doing well, and the things we can do better on. And I certainly hope the conversation last night fueled some discussion about some improvements to customer service, which we'll hopefully see over the coming months. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Howells. Councillor Reynolds.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'd like Councillor Courtney, I'm feeling a bit under the weather, so apologies for my voice. But I'll just declare an interest very quickly if I can, because I work in children's care. I didn't realise there was going to be an in-depth discussion on this, so I would have declared it right at the start of the meeting. But I just want to echo Councillor Lacey's comments about the eliminate agenda. And just pick up one thing that Councillor Robley said. He said that every professional in care is against the eliminate, or implied that that's the case. As somebody who works in care, and I consider myself a professional working with children in residential care, we are dealing with the most vulnerable children in society, in my opinion. And the fact that some companies make obscene profits from these children and from the care of these children is morally wrong, in my opinion. I'm really pleased that Councillor Lacey used the word profiteering rather than profit making. There is a difference. Every company has to make a profit, but profiteering out of vulnerable children is obscene, as I say in my case. And what I will say about every professional that I've come across in children's care is they're not necessarily against the eliminate agenda. What they are against is companies making ridiculous amounts of money from councils who are forced to pay these crazy fees to have their children looked after. So I'm all in favour of the eliminate agenda, even though that will probably put me out of a job because as a councillor I can't work for the council. So, but what every person that I've come across in care is passionate about is not themselves, it's the children. Children come first. And the quicker we take profiteering out of looking after these children, the better, in my opinion. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. I think there was a valid point that you raised there about the children and the eye-watering prices that we have to pay per week. People in the authority, people in the residence would be absolutely amazed of what it's costing us per week for some children in care. I've got Councillor Clark now.
Thank you. And yeah, I think I'm the third one today who's at home because of a cold and didn't want to bring it in. Just a couple of points really, sort of just what I've heard and sort of what I'll add at the end. I think Councillor Reeks and Councillor Howes were honest, absolutely spot on. And there are positives, and like Councillor Whitehead as well said, sort of, it is the small things, and it is. Some things have to improve, which we understand, but I think Councillor Routley sort of saying we need to take the blinkers off. Councillor Routley, the blinkers aren't on. We know exactly what's in front of us. We know exactly what needs to be done, but also it was a shame sort of there was no positivities. From our side, sort of from my side of my involvement, I think sort of it's really good to see about the SPF funding. I mean, that's really positive. Over 60 plus positive outcomes, which I hope would have been mentioned. The Pill Master Plan is progressing with full involvement with partners, and that's not partners within the council, that's partners throughout Newport, which is really key. And I think Councillor Screen touched on it as well, our relationship with Vijay and Vantage and KLA. and Porsche moving into Newport. And Porsche, obviously, we know who Porsche are, but how they're working with councillors and how they're working with officers, with schools, etc., is really important. It's that working together, that gelling together. I think also sort of the Market Arcade, how we work there, and the absolute positivities there, and the fine results. So I'd recommend that for a visit. And also, it was mentioned about every professional will know. I think Councillor Routley again said that. Well, we have a great relationship, a working relationship, and an honest relationship with Bidding Newport, and they're professionals. So I'm not sure where that was coming from, but take on board, there are some things here, as Councillor, go back to Councillor Whitehead, it is sometimes the little things, totally understand, but let's also look at the positives. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Forsey.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I wasn't going to speak on this tonight, just to pinch a phrase from somebody else, but I have to mention some of the excellent work that has been going on, particularly on the canal. I know everybody probably knows that that's close to my heart. But also, if you look at the 17 children's play areas, parks that have been refurbished, and there's more to come, and that's a really important area. And I also just like to mention the Green Flag Awards that we've got for our parks and the crematorium gardens, which are really beautiful spaces and you know, really well kept. So I just want to mention those items. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Deputy, do you want to come? You've got the right to second it. Do you want to come? Don't fight over it.
Probably. I didn't actually expect to stand up this evening and have to yet again remind our opposition why this city has struggled. 14 years of austerity, £89 million of cuts, means that we've had to look at our services and determine exactly what we need to deliver. Focusing on statutory services, making sure that we delivered well in education and social services, meant we've had hard decisions to make over the last 14 years. However, on the back of that, we have a lot to celebrate. And I just want to go through, it's there for all of us to read on page 38, a summary of achievements and challenges, achievements that we've achieved. Newport City Council Building Control Team received 2 national awards. New UK and Welsh Government Investment Zone for Newport, specifically focusing on our compound semiconductor industry. That's a UK-wide industry that's going to get, it's a game changer, and that's massive for Newport. £33 million from the Shared Prosperity Fund, supporting 67 projects. New partnership agreement with CADU to promote Chilean and our Roman heritage. And for me, in education, the completion of the Baselake Comprehensive School, the expansion of the Sustainable Communities and Learning Programme, and importantly, the opening of the new ASD Learning Resource Base at Lamwen High School, ensuring that we've increased provision for children who've got a diagnosis of neurodivergence, and that's important for Newport. Additionally, no schools in Newport are in ASD category, and we have the lowest Year 11 NEET figures in the whole of Wales. So much to be proud of. Game changers for our children. Coming on the back of that, we'll be opening 3 new schools in Newport in the next few months. St Andrews will be opening in the new year, as will the new Pilgwentley Primary School, and we'll be extending Ysgolbrenderu to ensure we get 47 new places for children who've got severe ASD needs. A lot to be proud of, a lot achieved on the background of cuts over the last 14 years. I think it's really important that's noted. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Leader, you've got the right to speak there. We'll wind up.
Thanks, Presiding Member. I love Newport too, and I say this with all candour. Without councillors like Kevin Whitehead and Councillor Reeks and what they said about positivity, we won't turn this city around. Because if the opposition focus on negatives, thinking they bring the Labour Party down, they're not. they're bringing the city down. Because people just see Newport, it feeds that reputation outside of the city, and Cardiff get away with it. Bristol get away with their problems because we're not Newport. And I'm worried that there are elements in the opposition that just think, well, we'll have a pop at Labour, and then we'll get into power, and then, you know, we'll save Newport. We all need to save Newport and turn it around. So without the Councillor Whitehead and the Councillor Weeks and their positivity, it ain't going to happen. I can't do it alone. This group can't do it alone. We're determined, we're committed, but we need you guys. And I know there's social media warrior keyboards out there now. I'm the worst thing since sliced bread. I make terrible decisions every day, apparently. They spend their lives being negative about the city, about the residents. Well, enough is enough. I am my worst own critic. I know we're not perfect. I know there's areas we have to improve on. And I admit them. And I will deal with them. And our cabinet will deal with them. And on Councillor Evans' point about leaving some people behind, we're not. They're still face-to-face at the museum for older residents if they wish to go and see someone and talk through their issues. I went there a couple of weeks ago. It was full of residents going in there, chatting through their issues and what they have to face. The phone lines still are open. Not all services. That's true, but that's the context of the money savings we've had to find. It's just a reality. And I worry about Councillor Evans' position because he always talks about older generations. We're the fastest city in growing in young people in Wales, at over 10.2%. They do their whole life online. Now, we might have a view on that. I'm getting older now, and even I'm not up to speed on what they do. But I can tell you now, if we don't make those changes on the digital AI space, we will leave that generation behind, and that's the generation that will drive our regrowth. That's the generation of our next entrepreneurs. That's the generation that will be the future councillors of whatever party. We have to make our services fit for them.
Thank you, Leader. Now we now proceed to vote. Would all councillors please cast their votes, now starting with all those in favour? Right, hand online as well. That's all. There's none against, and there's no abstention. No against, is there? I just looked there. No. I move that the report be carried. I'll move on now to item 6. I think I must have misled you just now, and I apologise for that.
Under the Equality Act 2010, the Council has a statutory duty to report annually on its progress against equality objectives contained within our Strategic Equality Plan, the SEP, alongside staff equality data. This annual report represents the final report of the Council's third SEP. In compliance with statutory duties, provides an overview of the progress made towards meeting our equality objectives in the final year and throughout the delivery of our SEP 2020-2024, which ended March 2024. The report highlights significant achievements and details progress made during 2023-24 and throughout the delivery of this plan. Thus, it's a historic look back at the actions undertaken against each equality objective during the delivery of the SEP 2020-2024. The Council's Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee reviewed the draft report, and their comments are included in the report. The draft report was also well received by Cabinet. Key highlights throughout the delivery of this plan include training and policy changes, socio-economic duty, workforce representation, gender pay gap and gender equality. During the reporting period, we also developed our new Strategic Equality Plan 2024-2028, which builds on the work delivered in previous plans and identifies our priorities to achieve our vision of a more equal Newport for the next 4 years. The Council's new equality objectives strike a good balance between internally focused objectives based on self-reflection and externally focused objectives based at improving key areas in equality. For example, representative workforce and customer service, digital inclusion and access, which focuses on ensuring the Council's in-person and online services are accessible to everyone in Newport, providing services that are both inclusive and considerate of individual need. The leader and the Strategic Equalities Group, including member champions, have been instrumental in ensuring the Council meets its statutory duties under the Equality Act and supporting the Council's equality work internally within service delivery and communities across Newport. I ask that Council approves this annual report prior to publishing on the Council website.
Thank you, Councillor Druitt. Is there a seconder? Deputy Leader. Like to speak later or now? Right, okay. Any other comments on the report? Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I welcome this report. It's really positive. There's a lot recently sat on the Strategic Equalities Group. But so as the outgoing LGBT champion, I wanted to thank all those across the Chamber and officers who've supported Pride in the Port this year. I know a lot of people here were there volunteering and also came along just to support the day. But also with World AIDS Day on the 1st of December, and this is the first anniversary of the signing of the Paris Agreement for Fast Track Newport, I wanted to say a special thank you, on record thank you to officers, especially Janice Dent, who chairs the Newport Fast Track Committee, which is now Fast Track Gwent. A committee who are working towards the Welsh Government target to end transmissions of HIV by 2030. The officers on this committee work out of hours, but also recently Janice spoke at the Celtic Coalition in Edinburgh on the work that we've done in Newport and the way that we've sort of brought the programme on board. So once again, we've become an exemplar city of something that we've taken on within a year. So just really on record thanks to Janice and the Strategic Equalities team for the work that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey. Anybody else want to make a comment on the report? I can't see anyone on the line now. Right, we now proceed to vote. Would all councillors please cast their vote now, starting with all those in favour? I can't see any against, and I can't see any abstentions, so we move that the report be agreed. I now move to the item 7, which is the Gwent Regional Partnership Board Annual Report Plan. Councillor Lacey to present this report, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. So the RPB Annual Report for 23-24 is attached for your information. In Appendix A, it offers a strategic overview of the work carried out by the Regional Partnership Board, focusing on the following agreed priorities: enhancing care and support to ensure individuals have a greater say and control, improving outcomes of overall health and well-being across the region, delivering a coordinated person-centred care and support, and maximising the effective use of resources, skills and expertise across partner organisations. Whilst the report covers regional activities, much of the work is cross-cutting and has significant relevance to Newport. Key developments are highlighted within the document. Additionally, details of grant funding utilisation are provided in Appendix B. The annual report has also been submitted to Welsh Government. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Regional Partnership Board for the continued commitment and efforts in driving forward this vital work, which has a meaningful impact on individuals and communities across our region. Additionally, I wish to extend my gratitude to Councillor Jason Hughes for his dedicated service as the previous Vice Chair of the Board, where his leadership and contribution have been greatly valued. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lacey. Is there a senator to report? Do you wish to speak now or reserve your right? Anybody else want to speak on this report? Councillor Evans?
Just very briefly, presiding member. Well, the substantive reports are ridiculously long, far too long for us. Over 450 pages. I'm sure even the most, I'll be careful my wording here, but most enthusiastic person isn't going to really relish reading all that stuff. But one of the things I did notice in there on the theme was about carers and the invaluable job that carers do and the recognition that they don't necessarily receive. So I welcome that element of it. At the same time, we're asked to do a training course, and I've raised this in scrutiny meetings in the past, and it should be quite straightforward for all members of staff to do. You should be able to get it and click on the link. But sadly, we go through to the NHS portal, and everything goes peak-tong from there on. You need usernames, which you invariably forget, and it causes issues. So I just wanted on the record to say that whilst I welcome that, hopefully we'll be able to, instead of writing 400 pages, do something productive and ensure that we can just click on the link, do the training, and it's welcome news for all of us.
Councillor Heron.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I hadn't intended to speak on this, but I must ask how much fuss Councillor Evans would be making if we set up another portal ourselves so we could instantly get through to it. He commented it was 450 pages long, and only the most zealot of people would want to read 450 pages. Remember, this is 450 pages that someone has written. It's covered many topics, and it should be compulsory to read. It should be compulsory that we get together with the rest of our sister authorities in Gwent and do the best we possibly can for the people of Gwent and the people of Newport, and some of this is without the scope of Newport. We can't set up all these boards and maybe quangos, but we must do our best to represent our people. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Councillor Heron. Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. If I could declare an interest, obviously, as my colleague has just said, I did sit on this board at the time of the report. I'm not going to mention much about the report, but for me personally, just it's an opportunity to thank especially Anne Lloyd, the Chair, Tanya Evans, Phil Diamond, and our councillor colleagues who sat on the board as well, because the work that they do, I guess, is reflective of the fact the report is 450 pages long. That's actually a really short report in comparison to some of the work that comes through the Regional Partnership Board. But it is reflective, and I think the volume of people that actually work for the Regional Partnership Board across the regions is quite phenomenal, really, and the work that they do is quite phenomenal. On a personal level, I'd like to thank our staff in Newport, especially, and across the region, who are pushing the dementia services, the carers that play a vital role, and all those that work with our elderly people throughout the region. It's a key period, because you'll understand yourself, Chair, that anybody who works in health and social care are going through an incredibly difficult time. They've gone through COVID, which was incredibly hard, and this post-COVID period has been equally hard in many ways, and the financial restraints placed upon them. It means that everybody working in social care and health are having a particularly difficult time. So, my thoughts really do go out to people working in those areas and supporting those areas, and our officers who do an incredible job, I think, in making sure it all works, because it covers a huge spectrum of work. And I think very few people would understand really where all those tentacles of the Regional Partnership Board go out to. So I just like to say that, and thank you. And thank my colleague as well for her kind words.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Anyone else on the report? Can I just make one comment? Obviously, I was chairman of the Regional Partnership Board for quite a few years, and as a member as well. And I don't think people realise what this partnership board does really. And I think what I have suggested, that during our training, that we have an all members seminar on the Regional Partnership Board, and I think that would be advantageous to all members to have a clear understanding of all the good work they do. And there's a lot of money tied up there, and I said we've got to be in there fighting to get that money for Newport. So no one else wants to speak, so we move to the yeah, just sorry, Sorry, I should have said, do you want to speak? No, no, okay. We move now to the vote. Would all councillors please cast their votes now, starting with all those in favour? I think there's none against, none abstained, so that's been carried. We move now to item 8, the Air Quality Action Plan Adoption 2024-2020. Councillor Forsey to present the report, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The Council is asked to consider this report requesting the adoption of the Air Quality Action Plan 2024 to 2029. Officers have drafted an updated Air Quality Action Plan for the 5-year period, which sets out the measures and approaches that can be taken to achieve sustainable compliance with the air quality objective for nitrogen dioxide emissions. This plan seeks to replace the existing plan that was introduced in 2008. The Council currently has 11 air quality management areas due to historical high levels of nitrogen dioxide. Where a council has an air quality management area, it is obliged to produce a plan that describes how improvements will be made. So the Air Quality Action Plan Adoption 2024-25 report updates the following key themes in the improvement in air quality in Newport. Emissions from new development and transport, education and awareness, active travel and green infrastructure. Each air quality management area is supported by a community air quality group, and I encourage residents to get involved with these groups. It has been noted in recent years that the air quality in the city generally in these air quality management areas has improved and are heading for a state of ongoing compliance for air quality. These improvements have been supported by the work of community groups and actions from services within the Council. As soon as officers are satisfied that a sustained compliance is being achieved, the air quality management area with its special status will be revoked. It is hoped that the ever-improving air quality will see the removal of all 11 air quality management areas over the next few years. And at this time, it is intended that the action plan will be replaced by a strategy that will contain plans to maintain the best air quality for Newport. Generally, we are fortunate with the air quality in Newport. It's something to be celebrated, enjoyed, and it makes a difference to all of us, particularly to anybody who has asthma or similar conditions. I therefore recommend the Council agree the adoption of the 2024 to 2029 Air Quality Action Plan.
Thank you, Councillor Forsey. Is there a seconder? Councillor Howells. You had your hand up first. Right, do you wish to speak now or later? Right, okay, thank you. Are there any comments on the report? Councillor Morris?
Can I just make a general comment, and it's something that has troubled me for many years. What effect does the M4 motorway, as it passes through St Julian's and comes through the tunnels, what effect does that actually have on the air quality in the St Julian's area, where we have long periods of each and every day? Sorry, it is on. Perhaps it's hearing aid. Well, I've asked this question many times and I've had different answers. So what is the categorical answer? Is it having an effect on our kids?
Yeah, do you want to answer that question quickly, please?
Well, I think what I want to say, the answer to the question is in the report. The data about air quality in St Julian's and that area that I think you're referring to has been monitored extensively, and it is improving. So it is improving to the extent that, if you look at the graphs, that the levels of pollution are well under the recommended levels. So it's a good story. It's a really good story, and I encourage everybody to engage with air quality and the new monitors that we've got. And even if there's too many pages in the report to read, I encourage you to look at the residents' comments towards the end of the report. But the data you're asking for is in the report, and the air quality levels are good and improving.
Thank you. Councillor Hurahan, as a ward member.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. And thank you, Councillor Morris, for his concern about St Julian's. But as you can imagine, I've questioned everybody it's possible to question about the air quality in St Julian's over the years. Both the Welsh Assembly, or the senators we should call them today, and locally. I sent for the outputs from the cameras stations that are mounted along the M4, and the Assembly rigorously monitored that area. I must confess that I had to get more professional advice to interpret the outputs, but I assure you they are within reasonable levels, which quite surprised me because obviously I'm concerned about the standing traffic on the motorway, as I'm sure an awful lot of other councillors are. The work carried out by our scientific officer is to be commended. He's got monitoring stations alongside St Julian's High School, and that's some of the areas. And we had an in-depth discussion at the last scientific monitoring meeting, which sadly very few councillors turn up to. But yeah, the presiding officer turned up to the last one. But these have been going on for some time, and the scientific officer is being commended for his work. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Thank you. I have attended about two or three now of these, because obviously Shaftesbury gets affected as well sometimes. But and it's amazing what on the report people think that's going to be the air quality, but it's the statistics are showing it's not. Councillor Hughes.
If I could echo my colleagues' comments, because we've obviously been working in my ward in Killeen for a long, long time on air quality. And, you know, surprising as it may be to some people, the air quality there is improving significantly. And, you know, hopefully we'll be in a position very soon to remove even the AQMA in the area, which is something that, you know, I think would be, again, adding to that success story. I too want to thank Steve Manning, the officer, for, you know, you can imagine in Killeen, the challenges have been quite significant at times, but he's persevered and he's worked really, really hard there. And he's done an exceptional job really in supporting our ward, certainly, in making these improvements for Newport.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Anybody else on this report? Do you want to speak on Councillor Howells?
Thanks, Presiding Member. First of all, I just wanted to congratulate Councillor Forsey and all the officers who are named in the report for all their hard work and putting it together, and for, you know, what seems to be a general picture of improving emissions across the city. Not a perfect picture, but, you know, a generally improving picture of 11 air quality management areas, 5 of them, and they're the ones that are along the M4, are showing such a sustained reduction in emissions that they're likely to be probably revoked in the long run, no longer need monitoring. So that's a really good result there. You know, we've contributed as a council towards reducing emissions. In May of this year, 31% of Newport's fleet were zero emissions vehicles. That's by far the best result of any local authority in Wales, and we're actually closer to 50% now. You know, we've got active travel schemes, school street initiatives, all contributing to lowering emissions, and importantly for children as they, you know, come out into classically polluted areas outside their schools. So, you know, it's just a picture of improving emissions, which is good news for everyone, and in particular, as Councillor Forsey said, for asthma and lung disease sufferers, you know, which I personally got asthma, so I can completely identify with that. You know, so I think it's overall a really good picture.
Thank you. Councillor Forsey, do you want to speak? I'm winding up.
I just will refer Councillor Morris to page 718 in the pack, not that the report is that long, just just in the pack. But I would just also mention the new air quality monitors that we've got going out of Grantham City. We've got 4 installed, and another 2 are going to be installed soon. And this is like a traffic light system, and this is a very visual way of encouraging people to engage with air quality. And the other point I'd like to highlight in the report is the apportionment tables, which shows where the emissions come from. And we can see that most of the cases there, the emissions come from diesel vehicles. So the sooner that they can be phased out, the better it would be for everyone's health. But just to summarise, it is generally, we have good air quality in Newport, and it is an improving programme, improving situation with the improving in the fleet. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, though, that these meetings are open to quite a few members, and there's not many that do turn up, so I think if you were concerned about that, Councillor Morris, it might be interesting to turn up to these meetings and talk to the officer that's dealing with it, because they are interesting meetings, there's no question about that. Right, I think we move now to the vote. Would all councillors cast their vote now, starting with all those in favour? Right, all for, no against and no abstention, so I think we move that the report be agreed. Right, Councillor Forsey, over to you again now to present the report on the Climate Change Annual Report, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The purpose of this report is to provide our emissions, carbon dioxide equivalent emissions for 23-24, and to update on the projects that have been supporting our decarbonisation efforts. This is the second annual report of the Climate Change Plan, which was signed off by Cabinet in March 2022. The Climate Change Plan sets out how we, Newport City Council, will reach net zero as an organisation by 2030. So this year's annual report, emissions have increased by 2.76%, and this has been driven by an increase in procurement. So the increase of 4.76% from 15% increase in procurement spending. So we were able to provide accurate emissions data for a large number of our suppliers, which meant we were able to minimise the impact of our increased spending. Fleet emissions have reduced by 14% this year, and our buildings by 11%. 44% decrease in emissions in the past 5 years. So 57% reduction in waste, 51% reduction in procurement, 33% reduction in buildings, and 16% reduction in transport. Some of the projects to note that we've carried out in the past year: communications and engagement with residents and employees. So we've had World Environment flag raising, energy saving event at the riverfront, and over 300 people attended. The Newport Climate Champions and Newport Environment Network, which again I encourage anybody interested, residents or councillors, to get involved if they're interested. We have a very active staff network, a book swap, speakers, and Christmas jumper swap is going on again this year. So decarbonisation standards policy for council buildings covering acquisition, new builds and retrofit. Air source heat pumps installations underway at Jubilee Park Primary School, Clean Lodge Hill Primary School, Ysgol Cymraeg Casnewydd Glanlyn Primary School, Llanwern High School and Spring Gardens Residential Home. We've planted nearly 23,000 trees this year, and we've installed some rainwater gardens which reduce the risk of flooding and also create new habitats for wildlife. down on the riverfront. I guess the weekend that we've just had of huge storms, again, makes us think that we need to install more of these. We've got 45 new vehicles added to our fleet, and 40% is fully electric. Nearly 100 fast and rapid charge points have been installed across the city and at destination venues such as Nisry, Rodney Parade and Tredegar Park. We've developed a carbon calculator for suppliers to allow them and us to understand and report their actual emissions instead of the Welsh Government calculations. And this is what has allowed us to only increase our procurement emissions by 4.7%, even though the spend increased by 15.5%. Currently leading on projects to introduce shared online carbon reporting for suppliers for all of the local authorities in South East Wales. Our recycling has increased by 5% year on year, and it's now at 67.89%, with a target for 70% for next year, so that we can see that there's more to do on that. The main areas of focus for 24-25 are to develop a short-form training and improved website, the expansion of EV charging network, the replacement of more gas boilers with air source heat pumps across our estate, 6 sites due for completion over the next 2 years. Support development of decarbonisation plans for local suppliers and other SMEs. And Net Zero Newport decarbonisation programme, where we've got match funding for SMEs and community organisations for the installation of low carbon infrastructure. And I ask the Council to note the report. Thank you.
Councillor Bowles, is there a seconder? Do you want to speak now, or do you want to reserve your right? Right, thank you. Any comments on the report? No. Councillor Lacey.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I welcome the report and the amount of work that goes into the report, but I just wanted to take this opportunity, as I do have done in Cabinet, but I've done now, is to ask my colleagues at the Welsh Government at the Senedd level to speak and bring Cadw to the table with regards to our decarbonisation programme, which is it's made quite difficult by the stringent things that they put in place for our listed buildings, and it would be a lot easier to decarbonise if we can sympathetically do that to this building. I think when they ask for certain things, such as mortar under the tiles that come from the same quarry in where it was produced, I understand we need to keep the building as is, but also sometimes we need to halfway meet there. So asking our Senedd members to bring Cadw to the table, please. Thank you.
Any other comments on the report? It's an interesting point you mentioned about Cadw. When I was sort of head of homelessness, we had a property that was Cadw insisted that when we refurbished it, that we had to put the bricks back in the chimney, all the old bricks we had, and then they rendered it. And I just found it absolutely unbelievable that they made us put the original bricks in and then rendered the chimney. You know, that's the type of... It is frustrating when that happens, because that costs a lot of money then to do that. Right, on that then now we move to the vote. No, she didn't speak. We now proceed to vote. Will all councillors please cast their votes? Stand with all those in favour. Nine, 4. I think that's carried. There's no abstention. No one against and no one abstentions. Right. We move now to item 10. Councillor Routley, I think you were doing this remotely now. Present the report on the Democratic Services Committee annual report.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I am proud. I'm a proud Newportonian, and let me just say this. I love Newport, always have, and always will. It's my first love. It is my pleasure to present the report for 23 to 24 Democratic Services Committee. This annual report covers the period from November 2023 to August 2024. The committee is politically balanced, which works together in a non-partisan way. This report highlights the important work carried out by the committee last year. We met on 3 occasions during the reporting period. Each of these meetings were held on a hybrid or multi-locational basis, where participants had their choice to join remotely or attend in person. Further meetings are arranged during the remainder of this financial year in order to progress our forward work programme. During the reporting period, there was a change of chair and some changes to membership of the committee at the Council's AGM in May. Under the period considered by this report, the committee considered changes to the Constitution, budget setting process. The committee also considered the scheme of delegation of assets and recommended those changes to full council.
Councillor Routley, could you come nearer the microphone a little bit? We have a job to hear you at the moment.
Mr. Presiding Member, that is the first time in history you've ever said you had a job in hearing me.
Well, I can take it back if you wish.
Well, you know, I just like it noted. Can you hear me now, Presiding Member? Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Hello? Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. You don't want me to start again, I hope.
No, no, please, no.
Thank you.
No.
Well done. Okay. One of the committee's key role is to ensure that elected members have access to a reasonable level of training and development. During the reporting period, the committee received an update on member training and provided recommendations for future development opportunities for members. Other items considered by committee in this period including the results of a member survey on the newly implemented ward meeting framework and endorsed the changes to the Register of Interest reporting form from the Standards Committee. Finally, the committee also received and noted both the draft and final allowance scheme under the Independent Remuneration Panel annual report and noted proposals for members' allowance effective from 2024. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the members, and let's not forget the officers and all those who support us during that period. And we look forward to delivering the work programme of the committee during 2025. Presiding Member, I move acceptance of this report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Routley. Is there a seconder to the report? Councillor Hearing, do you wish to speak now or reserve your right? Right. Anybody else wants to speak on the report? Do you wish to speak on the report? No. Right. We'll move to the vote then. Will all those in favour please cast their votes now, please? That's carried unanimously. There's no one against them. Right, we move on then to... I think it's item 11 now. Right, this item 11 now, this is the dissolution of Redwick Community Council. The Cabinet Member for Regeneration and Democratic Services, Councillor Clark, to present this report, please.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. Quickly just go through the report. Well, you've got the report in front of yourselves. But this item is a report on the proposed dissolution of the Redwick Community Council. This document comprehensively outlines the processes and outcomes associated with this decision. The report has been prepared by our Head of Law and Standards in consultation with key stakeholders, including Redwick Community Council and the Head of Finance. This report follows a community poll this report follows the community poll which was held on the 21st of March 2024, in which a clear majority of Redwick residents voted in favour of dissolution. With a turnout of 57.7%, 93% of the voters supported the initiative, demonstrating a community preference for change. It is proposed that the dissolution will take effect on the 31st of March 2025. The Community Council has made arrangements to transfer its assets to the Redwick Community Group, which will continue to provide many of the services currently provided by the Community Council. Officers have reviewed all the Community Council's financial and other affairs and are satisfied that appropriate and lawful arrangements have been made with regard to these, including the making up the Community Council's accounts to the end of the financial year. It is not proposed that any assets or liabilities will revert to Newport City Council as the principal council, and therefore no implications for Newport City Council of approving this proposal. And just finally, in order to comply with the Local Government Act, the dissolution of the Community Council requires a resolution of this council. Members are asked to approve the dissolution in view of the clear outcome of the community poll, which I mentioned, and to note the advice of the monitoring officer that not approving this resolution would be difficult to justify. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Councillor. Is there a seconder?
Chair, can I second that?
Yes. Do you want to speak now or later?
At the end of the day, thank you.
Right. Anybody else want to speak on this issue? Councillor Fairweather.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Obviously, the people of Redwick have chosen to abolish their community council, and we won't be collecting, I understand, the precept from the next tax year, and any funding that they currently have will be going to an unelected body to provide the services that the community council provide now, which the city council should really be picking up. I'm just worried that as we go forward, with no precept being collected, that money that the community council currently have reserved for that new group will run out. And then the city council will have to pick up those functions. Now, it may be grass cutting, it may be maintaining the park, or it may be maintaining the play equipment. I don't know. I don't know Redwick very well. But I just think those issues need clarifying, because I wouldn't want to see, first of all, the residents of Redwick left without the services that they have now, because the community council is gone, and I wouldn't want to see this council having to pick up additional work, additional costs, because of what's happened.
Anybody else want to speak on the report? Yeah, can I ask the monitoring officer to just make a comment on that? Although I've had a chat to him about it and he's clarified it with me, but it's best I think he talks to the full council about these issues.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Just specifically on Councillor Fairweather's point just then. I understand that the Community Council currently maintains areas of land which belong to it. They're not areas of land which belong to Newport City Council. They won't belong to Newport City Council going forward, so I don't see how this council is going to assume any responsibility for maintaining them.
It's just at the moment that the residents of Redwick are receiving a service from the Community Council paid for from the precept. That precept will no longer be there. When the money runs out to this community group, they won't be able to carry on those functions unless they have a way of raising funds.
That's the decision that they've made as a community, but that liability won't revert to this council.
Okay. I don't think there's anybody else. Oh, Councillor Hurahan.
Just for clarification, please, what's going to happen to these assets that you've mentioned? You mentioned land. Is there any building there?
Again, monitoring officer, we have talked about this.
There is no building. The village hall is currently owned by the Redwick Community Group, who it's proposed that the rest of the assets will transfer to. I'm not sure whether any land transfer is proposed, but the entirety of the assets of the Community Council will transfer to the Redwick Community Group. Yes.
Okay, Councillor Howard.
Thank you, Mr Presiding Member. A question for the Monitoring Officer, really. Is the new entity, the Community Council, registered as a Community Benefit Society or a Community Interest Company?
It's registered as a charitable... I did look at this earlier and I have got it written down. It's registered or will be registered as a charitable incorporated organisation.
Okay. Well, I don't think there's anyone else who wants to speak. I think there's been an agreement with Councillor Clark that you could, as a seconder, you can wind up on this. Councillor Clark, I don't want to speak again on it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, just as a matter of interest, the community group already own, if you like, the community hall, and they raise significant funds from it. Just as a matter of interest, really, I mean, community councils are often the first port of call or agency, if you like, for residents to contact to make their views known. And they often have the finger on the pulse of things more than I do, or as councillors who have community councils. And let's be honest, they're made up of good people, really, trying to make their community better, and give it a voice, really. And sadly, I suppose, in many ways, they're getting more and more responsibility from Welsh Government, understandably. And that's creating issues for a small community council like Redwick. They have really done an amazing job over the years. The average age of the community council, I don't think they'll mind me saying, is around about 74, 75. They've all got better memories than I got. But in Redwood's case, there just simply isn't enough of the younger generation, a little bit like we were talking earlier on, to carry that mantle, which is really, really sad. But I think what we have to do is respect the democracy of it, and I think 93% voted for it. And with respect, should Council confirm the request they have made, can I place on record a thank you to all of those current and previous community councils, not just in Redwick, but right across our city. And also thank everybody else for listening to me rabble on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Calloway. Right, I think we can now proceed to the vote. Would all councillors please cast their votes now, starting with all those in favour? I think everybody's for. There's no against, no absent, so we agree the dissolution of Redwick Community Council report is duly noted and approved. I've never come across this before in all the years I've been on the council. It was quite interesting. Right, move on to item 12, questions to the leader. We now move to open questions for the leader. Questions will be asked on a ballot list in order sent out earlier today. Before we start, does the leader have any announcements to make?
I do. Thanks, Presiding Member. Just a few announcements. You know me, I don't tend to drag this out. I was lucky to join many fellow councillors raising the white ribbon flag outside the Civic yesterday. The campaign theme is around men standing up for women and against violence, domestic abuse. But also I mentioned during my little speech, joined by the Mayor, around the financial control elements of women being controlled by their partners, not given financial means to live their life independently of the relationship, or locked into a violent relationship where they don't feel they can escape. And I know all councillors and all officers support this initiative, and we support it wholeheartedly. And really proud that we have become an accredited organisation, which I know we all are proud of, in standing up against violence against women who are our daughters, our sisters, our mothers, and we should protect them, particularly men. It's going home to the festive season. I gave Councillor Evans a present. He asked for it last year about free car parking. You're welcome. We have free car parking every Saturday. I was lucky to go to the countdown to the Christmas lights. Lucky most of you missed my dancing. Thank God for that. Although the officers and the councillors there, including the Mayor, really enjoyed me embarrassing myself. But it was a great turnout, 2,000 more than the year previously. It was a great fun to be had. Many people enjoying themselves. Gareth Gates sang, and it was a great day all round, to be honest. I even received complaints that he was too busy. I know it's hard to believe, but I did. They couldn't get out of Kingsway car park because it was that full, which is pleasing as the kind of complaints I like to receive, if I'm honest. We also, with Councillor Evans, Winter Wonderland, and the Mayor and many other councillors, went on the rides. I did participate in ice skating. It was only me and Councillor Howes that did it, I noticed. Everyone quite well was witnessing, well, seemed to be relishing the thought of me falling over. I don't know why. Nearly did a couple of times, but it was great fun. We had some young carers join us, some young people across the city to join the festivities. They've been affected by adverse weather conditions. I know, and also a pupil, student, I say a student, I don't know, but a pupil of ours won a prize that they didn't win, and I know that's been resolved, so they deserved it quite rightly, and I'm glad it's been resolved as well. But please go down there. It does bring back memories. The Dodgems was great fun. I must admit, I felt like a 12-year-old boy again. And if you've got families, free entry, free car parking on Saturdays, and you can limit the cost by not, by purchasing tokens and making sure that, if you only want to put a tenner in, you only put a tenner in, and so forth. So it's a great day for the family and for the people of Newport if you want to participate. We released the placemaking big ideas, 60 big ideas that we started circulating around the city. These ideas are from the citizens themselves. Over 1,000 locals engaged in our surveys and public engagement and focus groups. So we'll look at those, and we've looked at them and see what we can roll out going forward. But we thank the community for participating and getting involved. I was really proud that Newport City Council and Barnardos have signed up to the Young Carers Covenant, provide fair future for our children and young people who are in care. Councillor Evans mentioned it. Young carers, we owe them everything, every bit of support we can, given the circumstances they find themselves in, which is not their fault whatsoever. And I know Councillor Huran and Councillor Stephen Marshall have done great things in this area as well. Me, with the Deputy Leader, and Councillor Huran went to the antenatal scheme, which, as a new dad, I could offer some advice or maybe commiserations about their sleep patterns going forward. But it's part of a first 1,000 days offer for children that we offer parents, support, some packages with an Iron Bevan Health Board, so the midwives are there as well. It's about giving those families and those children the best start in life and support things they do not know. For example, I've learned that boys pee on you instantly as soon as you take off their pampers. No one knows until someone tells you. I didn't know until it happened to me. So that's a really proud thing to be rolling out. And heat networks, Councillor Screen mentioned the wonderful things happening in Marshfield and Dufferin Ward with Councillor Trevor Watkins and Councillor Ian Howells. Semiconductors, but also the data centres, one of which is Vantage and Microsoft. And those centres emit immense amounts of heat that then just go into the ether. So we've commissioned as a council, as a cabinet, some monies, £200,000, to outline how we could harness that heat emitted from those data centres, that they don't want anyway, to help fund those projects, and we can release that heat into the community in a managed way, into commercial premises and residential premises in and around those data centres, so we can reduce their bills and make it more efficient for those data centres to distribute that heat across the community to the benefit of the community and to the businesses in and around that area. And so hopefully that's a 2-year project, but hopefully that will come out for the benefit of us, the city, and the wider community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Leader. You mentioned about carers. There was a very informative carers information day at the riverfront, and it was very well attended, and we got a lot of kudos through that, especially with our community connectors that were there. So that's really good. Right, questions to the Leader now. The first one I've got is Matthew Evans, Councillor Matthew Evans.
Thank you, Presiding Member, and can I thank the Leader of the Council for his very generous Christmas present. And of course I will continue to support the City, like events like Winter Wonderland, as I have done for the last 25 years. But also I have a duty to raise concerns of my constituents as well. So anyway, some good news. 4 years ago, the Cabinet approved the delivery of the new leisure and wellbeing facility on land adjacent to the university campus. Bad news. I'm still furious that the university has reneged on their promises to expand there, because they were due to do that. But some more good news. The Conservative group welcomed the concept, but we need to ensure that costs don't run out of control. Fair enough. The Chancellor's recent announcement over national insurance rises will not only affect this council, but presumably will put pressure on the construction industry as businesses feel the heat. You and the Cabinet recently allocated another £600,000 to support the scheme before the foundations have even been laid. So what guarantees can you give us that costs won't continue to escalate? And when it does finally open, will you expect the centre to make money? Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. To answer your question directly, the budget has a contingency built into it for events such as this. It's common practice within the industry to build in contingency just in case of budgets or cost hikes or pandemics or anything like that. So we have a contingency that hopefully will cover any costs if there are any extra costs. I haven't heard that, but if that happens, we have some contingency. Does that answer the question? What was the last point? The centre will not make money the first 2 years as we build up the membership, but we expect it to year 3 and 4 from memory, because we need to build up the membership. The membership needs to, join, and like any other business, I suppose, it takes time to build that revenue up.
Okay, thank you. I got Councillor Mark Howells.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I'm sure the Leader will be aware of the recent travellers' concerns across the city. The Lisworry ward normally bears the brunt of these at sites such as Newport International Sports Village, Blackash Park and more recently in Morrison's. I asked a Cabinet member in August, following the announcement of the opening of the Ellen Ridge site, what provision is being made by the authority for dealing with passing through travellers. The response was that our traveller accommodation assessment does not identify a need for passing through sites in the city. With respect, following the recent events, I don't think our residents will agree. Moreover, if vacancies are available on a passing through site, it means that travellers can be moved on much more quickly by the police under Section 62 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act. Can you explain to Lisworry residents and the rest of Newport why travellers are allowed to get away with breaking and entering, why they're not held responsible for their waste disposal when they finally do leave, and can you let us also know whether you will consider a passing through site for residents so Newport residents don't have to suffer in future? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Howells. They do pay a consequence. The process, the judicial process is set out by law, which we follow to the T. So if you have a problem with that process, you need to go to the Welsh Government and the UK Government to change their legislation. We'd follow the law as set out. On regards to your passing through site, it's a regional answer to that. So the region has to answer a travelling site, because it's not just us that's affected by travellers. And what I would say to you is, do we want that in Newport? Because if I start proposing sites in Newport, will I get councillors coming to my door saying we don't want it in your site, in your ward? And I think the answer is yes. I'm just being honest. So do you propose any ward that should take the site, Councillor Howells? I didn't hear an answer to that. I presume Councillor Howells wouldn't want it in Lisworry, and I think most councillors in here wouldn't want it in their wards. So I think the answer has to be from the region, and you're quite right. If we have a regional passing through site, then police can move them on in a quicker manner, which we all want. And to all those who are affected by travellers and the mess they leave and the damage they cause, our sympathy is with you. We'll do what we can, but our hands are tied to a certain extent because it's set out by law and legislation.
on to Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Leader, it's not so much a question, I suppose it's a plea, really. Not so long ago, we, the British residents, asked the police, along with Public Protection City Council, for a public space protection order around the shopping centre on Bettis to include Tone Close. It was decided that we kind of didn't qualify. I think a lot of it was down to the ages of the children involved. Since then, we had a lull, so to speak, in the storm, but now it's escalated again. Even this morning, one of the shopkeepers couldn't open their shop because of the damage that was caused to one of the shutters there. And having spoken with her, these people are not reporting it because they're scared of the ramifications and the comebacks, which it saddens me, really. So for me, really, it's just, would you sanction your the public space protection officers at the City Council to re-engage with the police and revisit the discussion around our original plea for that PSPO, please? Like I say, it's not so much a question, it's a plea, and would you sanction them bodies coming together to discuss Bettis again, please?
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. The answer is yes. The Bettis residents deserve to be protected. They shouldn't live in fear, and we must tackle antisocial behaviour wherever it rears its head. So I'll speak to the Cabinet Member about it.
My man.
Right, I got Councillor Fairweather.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Leader, the Welsh Assembly Government allocated £5 million in extra funding to councils to sort out the mess around the 20-mile-an-hour plan. I understand Newport was given just over £94,000 to do that. I'm just wondering, could you tell me, and if you can't tell me now, I will accept a written answer, where that money has been spent, what's it been spent on, how much of that money remains, and when will we please have the results of the consultation? We understand that Newport probably have the highest number of respondents in Wales, and we need to know now which roads, if any, are going to return to 30 miles per hour. We've waited long enough now, it's time that the response was given. Thank you.
The reason why it's taken a little bit longer, although only 2 other councils have announced what they're doing, reverting back, but you're quite right, we had over 3,000, unless Councillor Howells corrects me. You'll get it in January. In terms of the monies, I understand we haven't spent hardly anything or little bits of it, because it's about investing that on the new 30-mile-per-hour signs. That will all be in the public domain, our rationale, our thinking. I've asked the Cabinet Member to put it all on the website so people can look at it. What I would stress is the Welsh Government guidelines is really, really strict. But I would expect some roads to revert back to 30 miles per hour.
Thank you. Councillor Routley.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Leader, we all care about our residents in Newport, and I was delighted to see last month that we all said that, or you specifically said that you would work tirelessly to support those pensioners affected in Newport by the winter payment withdrawal system. You said that we would identify pensioners in most need. We would work alongside the third sector organisations to identify pensioners not claiming pension credit despite their eligibility, to maximise the use of the Welsh Government's discretionary assistance fund to support Newport pensioners during the winter, and also to investigate bespoke plans to offer further support. Can you update us now, as the weather has turned nasty on all our residents here in Newport? Have we done any, some, all of them? And if we have, what have we done? What have we identified? And how soon can we get the information out there to our pensioners that need it? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Routley. It's a very important question, and we have some very good news coming forward. We are going to invest in a new programme, which we will highlight in the new year, early new year. But it's some startling results. It's about coordinating the data with ourselves and other organisations, and we'll release all that in the early new year, because you're quite right, we have to support our pensioners. We have to make sure the pensioners who are eligible for pension credit get that pension credit. There's some wonderful work by Councillor Deb Harvey and Tim Harvey and Councillor Druitt on this, and early in the new year you'll see some really good news.
What about the pensioners now?
Councillor Routley, put in a supplementary questions, please, okay? Can we move on now to the next one? I think that's the news you've been waiting and hearing for, so that's good news, really, isn't it? I got Councillor Chris Reeks.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Cancelling of the M4 Relief Road in 2019 was a blow to the local economy, and we continue to see the M4 at a standstill on a daily basis around the Bringlass tunnels, which brings excessive traffic onto the streets of Newport and creates further traffic and air quality problems as well. Now, whilst this isn't within the remit of Newport City Council, would the Leader agree with me that, as a council, we have a duty to the businesses and residents of Newport to lobby the Welsh Government to look at road alternatives to ease this congestion and improve residents' lives and the economy of our area? Thank you.
Yes, I was pro M4 Relief Roads, and Councillor Reenhouse is going down to Westminster tomorrow to help lobby the Westminster Government as well. And I talk to Welsh Government ministers all the time. It's not acceptable. It inhibits Newport's growth, and we shouldn't all accept that.
Okay, I got Councillor Kellaway. Never thought you'd get to this, did you?
Yeah, I thought I was going to miss this one. It's a question about flooding leaders. Thank you. Can I just, before we do anything else, just thank all the council employees and agencies for their really hard work over the weekend. It was much appreciated. And you might not know too much about the history for this, so I will accept a written answer for it. As part of the planning permission for Great Milton in Llanwern, an agreement was signed and Newport City Council received about £186,000 about 8 or 9 years ago. That was to upgrade the drainage in Llanwern and Station Road, if you know it, which I'm sure you do. Yet nothing has been done to upgrade that drainage, and we've seen over the last weekend flooding is a genuine and serious concern. Can you explain why Llanwern is still waiting for that upgrade, or at least what has happened to the £186,000? Now, that's compounded today by an email, if I can share with you. Look at my glasses. And it's from the developer. And it's basically saying the photographic evidence that they were shown around the basins performing as intended. So the basins around Llanwern Village, they're performing right. And the water collected from the site, which is in their judgment prevented potentially worse flooding. We do wonder, however, that once the long outstanding system upgrade to Station Road sewer is carried out by Newport City Council, those improvements would help mitigate future events similar to the recent storm. So it's really, really important we get to the bottom of this. I know there's been some work in the background, but I'd really appreciate an answer in terms of explaining what's happening to that money.
Yes, I spoke to officers about this. There are ongoing discussions in the background which I can't divulge. Well, what we can do is maybe talk to you about what has or isn't happening, and the reasons for that can't be in the public domain. That's from the legal officer as well, so I'm restricted. But I just want to put on record all those households that are badly affected by the flooding. We're thinking of you, where our council staff were out there. We took a month's worth of rain in a 24-hour period. Our drains, even if all clear, can't take that volume. So we have a bigger problem, in my view, beyond this council, of what national governments, be it the Welsh Government or the UK Government, because if climate change is happening, and I believe it is, then this is going to be more frequent events. And if our drains aren't designed to take that volume over that short period of time, we're going to have regular problems. And I'm sure you've all seen what's happening in Pontypridd and other areas. So The council must do what it can as well, but if I'm honest, we need all the governments to come together and say we need to solve this problem because our drains need to be expanded, in my view.
Right, okay, that's the last of the questions. Now we move on to item 13, questions to Cabinet members. There's one written question for Cabinet members. Question 1, I think it's from Chris Rees to the Cabinet member for Assets.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Cabinet Member, at September's full Council meeting, we were informed that a report by the Burns Commission will be adopted by the Council. Amongst the many measures in the report that the Welsh Government are keen to press ahead with is the removal of the old green roundabout. This is, however, despite the public consultation largely disagreeing with this change to the infrastructure. Ironically, the old green roundabout was originally built in the 1970s to ease the queues of traffic heading into the city centre. But there is a high probability now that should the measure be implemented and the roundabout removed, that we will revert back to gridlock roads and daily traffic chaos with vehicles entering the city. Can the Cabinet member reassure us that before proceeding with any changes, that the proposals will be reviewed with extreme caution, that the views expressed in the public consultations will be taken into account, and all alternatives will be explored to ensure the smooth flow of people into the city whose only means of transport may be by car? Thank you.
Councillor Powers.
Thanks, Presiding Member. Thank you for your question. The Newport central enhancements encompass improvements at the rail station as well as Old Green. The Burns Commission recommendations report in 2020 confirmed that the Old Green project can be achieved without an unacceptable impact on general traffic. This project will see tens of millions of pounds of investment coming into the centre of Newport to modernise and update our infrastructure, for example, to accommodate cycle lanes and more amenity space. 3 options were produced for public consultation, and the preferred option resulting from the public consultation was the balance of benefits option, and that is now being progressed. The preferred option provides the greatest benefits for walking and cycling, whilst also performing the best operationally for buses and general traffic. This is supported by the detailed traffic modelling undertaken by Transport for Wales in progressing this project. I can assure Councillor Reeks that conversations with stakeholders are ongoing, and where issues have been raised and practical workable solutions can be found, we will look to accommodate these. As part of the Burns Delivery Group, we will continue to be engaged with various projects and will ensure that they achieve the best results for Newport.
Thank you, Councillor Howells. Any supplementary on that? No. Okay, thank you. Right, that concludes the business set on the agenda. Date for the next council is Tuesday, the 21st of January. I declare the meeting closed. But just before I close the meeting, can I wish everyone a very good Christmas and a Happy New Year? I think it's long overdue for a bit of a rest, really, isn't it? For all, it's been a hard year, but a successful year, and I think we've got to take a lot of credence in that as members of this council and officers. So I thank everybody. Have a good time.